Well, the Redskins took a tough loss last week against Philadelphia. Let's see how strong our bounce-back game is as Washington prepares to face the Sean McVay-led LA Rams in Los Angeles on Sunday. We'll tell you what to expect. It's the Hogsty. Don't go away.
By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Alrighty, fellas, here we go. Another day, another dollar, another week, another game. How you guys feeling as we head into this matchup against former offensive coordinator, Mr. Sean McVay? How you doing, Alex?
I'm congested, but other than that, it was a good night last night. I watched that 30 for 30. We won't be talking about it really, but that was cool.
We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about
back when the Redskins were good and were winning football games.
About the scabs and the scab.
I'm about to say, what was it about, man?
All right, so you're definitely too young to remember. It was the 30 for 30 was about the 1987 strike and the 3 games that were played by replacement players. Long story short, all the Redskins players stayed unified. They stayed out of, crossing the picket line. So the entire team was, guys off the street, and they were playing against guys like Tony Dorsett and Danny White.
Okay.
That movie, the Keanu Reeves movie from 10 years ago at least, called The Replacements.
More than that now, yeah.
That movie is loosely based on the '87 Scab team.
Actually, the original movie was very closely based on the team.
Was it?
Yeah, they kept on changing it. They couldn't use NFL teams, so they had to take out that, and then they couldn't use the real people, so they had to take out that, and then they started adding in Orlando Jones to do dancing for some reason.
Yeah,
so they
strippers who were the cheerleaders and all that stuff. You know what's interesting about the Scab year is that people
you remember it.
Oh yeah, I know, and really and truly, the replacement players won all 3 games, and they were important games. It really and truly, it saved the season.
Yeah,
if
Giants,
those guys had tanked,
Cowboys,
the Redskins would
beat both of them.
Yeah, the Redskins would never have been in the Super Bowl, but for those Scab teams, the Scab team, and this is why I think, and I think a lot of other people think they should get Super Bowl rings, even though they never did.
Oh wow, that's messed up. So it was the first 3 games. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
they
were
didn't get
important
any
games.
rings for that. They did get $30,000 each for it, which
And there was one player we were talking about this before the show. We couldn't remember the name, but there was one wide receiver who stuck with the team the whole year after that. Anderson, or what was this? I can't remember his name. Something like Anderson, right?
Yeah, Anthony Anderson, I think is what it was. It's
Something
a
like
double
that.
A name.
That guy played in the playoffs, but he was the only one.
Yeah, he didn't do anything in the Super Bowl, but he did something in the championship game.
See, Alex, we did talk about it. We told the audience we weren't going to talk about it, and then we did talk about it.
That's enough of it.
Well, the thing is, y'all knew it without even watching the 30 for 30. So
Steve lived it. I was 4.
I did.
Yep, I was born about 6 months later.
Yeah.
Neither one of you guys remember that then? Jamal wasn't even a gleam in his parents' eye yet.
Yep, I was born 6 years later, man.
Whew. All right, well, let's get back to present day then. Nice trip down to the past, but we got serious stuff to contend with. We're coming off a tough loss against Philadelphia, one we all thought was going to be a win. We're going up against the Rams next week. They had a dominant performance in their matchup last week, so the trend of 2 teams is kind of mismatched. Redskins looking a little worse, Rams looking a little better. But, Steve, do you have any stats, or do you guys want to just think like your big headlines maybe for our offense against their defense? Or
Well, yeah, I mean, see, the Rams' stats offensively are almost inapplicable in a sense. Now, I'll just say this up front. They were the worst team in the NFL statistically on offense, and it wasn't even close. They were last in points, last in total yards, last in yards per game, yards per play, 31st in passing, 31st in rushing yards. The only thing they weren't terrible at was time of possession, and they were 23rd. Everything else was just horrible. Case Keenum was the quarterback for 9 of those games. He was terrible. Kenny Britt was their best receiver. He's not even with the team anymore.
Nope.
Todd Gurley was their draft pick from 3 years ago. First round pick. He was supposed to be this great running back. He averaged 3.2 yards per attempt. I cannot
he still gets stuff done though through the air. He's kind of a jack of all trades.
Fair enough, but he's not become the great running back that everybody thought he was going to be. And so the point is I can't emphasize enough how awful and horrific this offense was. And so we fast forward to the Colts game, completely different story.
Totally different team, night and day.
Yeah, and so I'll just read a couple more stats out for you. In 2016, Jared Goff picked up. He played 7 games, and the highest quarterback rating he had all season was 100.3 against the Saints. There were games when his completion percentage was down in the 40s. He didn't average above 65% completion the entire year. Yet the Colts, his quarterback rating last week 117.9. He had a 72.4 completion percentage, passed for 306 yards, which was by far and away by almost 100 yards more than he ever passed against any other team. So I don't know if he just had the game of his life, if the Colts are that bad, or if he truly has taken that step. So that's the Colts.
Well, I mean, Goff was supposed to be a very good quarterback. I mean, I remember when he came out, a lot of people said he was one of those guys who would need, some time to mature and, become an NFL passer like everybody does.
Yeah.
So, he very well could have taken that time and evolved. And Sean McVay is a very good coach when it comes to coaching up quarterbacks. We know that.
Yes, we do. And one of the things that I think you can definitely say about Goff, and by the way, do we just want to do this, maybe start with LA's offense since we're talking about them already?
Yeah, let's just do that.
God, lost my train of thought. Give me 2 seconds here.
1,
2.
2.
Bueller.
3.
That's what it was. Got it. Okay, it took me 3 and not 2. One thing that you can definitely tell from Goff watching him, especially in this last game, is that he knows how to spread the ball around. I think 4 or 5 different receivers logged over 50 yards, I think, last week. He really spread it around to everybody. Nobody really, played lights out in the receiving corps because everybody seemed to get a look or 2 or 3. So I think that's going to be the big challenge. It's just they've got maybe not anyone that scares you so much right away, but they use everybody, and that's one of the positives I think he can do really well.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. And that's what stuck out in my head is that he passed the ball to 7 different receivers. And the guy who sort of does scare you, Tavon Austin, only had 1 reception for 7 yards.
Yeah. He got shut down.
Yeah.
I think, from what I saw of that game last week, they did a very good job of putting him in a situation where he was just in the gun a lot, throwing fairly easy, 5-10 yard passes, a lot of out routes, a lot of, the guys getting off on the sideline kind of things. Don't ask a rookie or a young quarterback to do too much, and, you can see that kind of production pretty quickly. And I think, that was a good game plan they had, at least, against the Colts. Now, let's also be fair. It's against the Colts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Steve,
Everything comes with that caveat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, you got that stat sheet in front of you?
Yeah, I have it.
What's how many sacks did Jared Goff take on Sunday?
Jared Goff was only sacked once.
Okay, only sacked once. All right, so I mean, basically, my main concern when it came to the Rams period was just their offensive line. I think that last year and the year before, the biggest thing, and I'm getting on Goff, but the biggest thing initially was, Todd Gurley's numbers decreased since his rookie year, and you wonder like what was the issue? They had the same offensive line for the past 2 years, virtually the same offensive line. There's been a couple people that's been in and out, but for the most part they had the same offensive line. Last year Jared Goff looked confused in the pocket. There was a lot of things that he just looked like a deer in headlights. He looked lost. He couldn't make the proper. He has the arm talent, but he couldn't make the proper throws. He couldn't see the field well. This year, it's only been one game, and it's hard to really react off one game, especially when that one game you're dealing with a defense that's dealing with an injury to their biggest corner. I'm not sure how much Vontae Davis played or if he played at all because I remember prior to that game he was injured and he was on the injury report. I don't know how much he played or if he played
I
at
think
all.
he did play because didn't he have a big player too? I mean, we'll get to their stats in a minute, I'm sure, but
yeah, I'm about to say, I'm not sure. I just remember him being on the injury report prior, so I'm not gonna act like I sat there and watched.
Well, he didn't have any
watched the game.
stats, so
no,
yeah, he
okay,
didn't
so
have
maybe
any
I'm
stats.
wrong. Maybe I'm
so,
thinking of somebody
yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, their secondary, the Colts secondary, is something to work with. They have an inexperienced safety, and I think Malik Hooker, who was drafted to them as well. Their front seven is okay. I think it's okay. It's respectable with the additions that they made. But my point is, when it comes to the offensive line of St. Louis Rams, it seems as if he only got sacked once, but it seems as if he's had enough time. He has enough confidence to distribute the ball properly. He's not phased or when you're distributing the ball, you're looking at multiple reads. It's not like you're sticking to your first read unless McVay is designing plays for multiple players, which also makes that offense very versatile because you can go to any player on that offense in that receiving court and use them in a specific down and distance or a specific situation. And that makes their offense versatile as well. So, Goff, obviously, he was accurate. He played a little bit more confident. And I think that the offensive line being able to buy him time, only getting them sacked once, is something that also bodes, confidence as well. So, I mean, like I said, I got to look at the game again, but that's basically what I'm going off of from what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Goff is from Cal, okay, and Cal is a quarterback factory. Aaron Rodgers went there, and there's been many other pro quarterbacks coming from Cal. They have a good program. The quarterback coach there is a good teacher. So I think everybody knew that Goff was going to be good, but it was going to take time because they don't play a pro system there. And look, I mean, maybe yes, it's the Colts, and I totally agree with you, Jamal. One sack, little pressure. It was 46-6. Obviously, it wasn't much of a game. I think the Redskins defense can put up a much stouter test. And I think the key, it would seem to me, when you have a young quarterback like this, blitz him constantly. Hit him, blitz him. Let Junior Gillette and company and Ryan Kerrigan put as much pressure as they possibly can on him.
Well,
agreed. Tear him apart.
Watching the film a little bit, and not like I'm an expert or anything, the one thing I did pick up on, though, was there is a weakness in that offensive line. The Colts were somehow getting a lot of pressure on the interior line. I saw at least 4 or 5 plays where they were pushing a center or a guard right back into Jared Goff with almost no effort. So I think that's kind of where there might be a way to push him, get to him. We have some good speed guys who can get to him on the inside now with Brown and Foster, and maybe that's a way we can kind of go after him early.
I mean,
I agree completely.
Yeah, definitely. I agree that that offense. My bad, Sean. My bad. I thought you
we always do this. It's always me and you, Jamal.
Go ahead, man. You got the floor. My bad.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. With Alex's prognosis there, definitely getting pressure on him is a key. And I also want to say about their offensive performance last week is just that the Colts were playing from a hole. I think the Rams got 2 pick sixes early. I think a lot of their yards kind of got added up on shorter plays that were more conservative, more cautious. Obviously, the Colts didn't have anything going on offense at all. So, in a way, it's almost like Goff wasn't necessarily asked to do that much. So I agree with Alex that if you can get pressure on him and you can really get him frazzled, I think that's probably the key. He's probably not as good as the stats say.
Yeah, I mean, one of those interceptions was in the first quarter. The other was in the third quarter. But it does have to be said. And then they also got a safety on top of that. And so it does need to be said that the Rams offense did not put up 46 points. The Rams offense put up is that? 30
21,
30 points. 30 points.
30?
Yeah.
No, it's more than I thought.
No,
Right.
28, I think.
Well, it was 46 minus 16 is
18.
Is 30.
Oh no, I'm tripping. My bad.
That's why
Hey,
I don't do live
I told you I
math,
hate
Jamal.
math, man. Oh my goodness.
Math is
Never
not
do
Jamal's
math
strong
live.
point. So
It is not.
anyway,
I just showed it.
So point is, the Rams really put up 30 points, which is a
Still
lot,
good.
especially for the Rams. But it's not like this was a 46-point offensive juggernaut here. For the Rams, it was,
Correct.
but for a normal NFL team, it's a lot of points. Good game, but nothing to write home about.
Right.
what I would like to point out here about this is the Rams' running game woes continued in this game. They were not good on the ground. Yeah. They were, once again, Todd Gurley had a poor game.
60 yards total, I think, was the number, right, Steve?
Yeah,
between
sorry,
I
was holding it right here.
Yeah.
40 yards rushing on 19 carries, which is a 2.1 yard per carry average. So this is truly a game where the Redskins' defensive line really ought to be able to stop, especially with the improvements they've hopefully made. This team really isn't even as good as Philadelphia when it comes to rushing. So, I think if last week is a guide, as goes Goff, as goes the Rams. Okay?
Yep.
So that's the key. So I guess what I'd like to ask you guys about is, in terms of secondary, we're talking about Tavon Austin, Cooper Kupp, Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods. Those are their guys.
Watch out for Kupp.
Yeah, I mean, he had 76 yards. He did. So what do we do about that? I'm not sure that we're going to see Josh Norman shadow anybody.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think we're going to see him everywhere because I think the Rams offense is going to dictate that's what's going to need to happen. But yeah, I think of all those guys, it's Kupp that you're probably going to need to watch out for the most. Watkins kind of on a rut, I guess, in his career, but can't sleep on him either.
I think every D-back is going to have a challenge simply because you already named the receiver. You got Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods. You have Cooper Kupp,
Woods,
and like these, and Tavon Austin. I mean, I personally, as a receiver, I don't really respect Tavon. Not like in a derogatory way, but I just don't think he's as good. I don't think he's the number one receiver. No. He's a gadget guy. So I don't really respect Tavon, but you do have to respect.
He's their Ryan Grant.
He's faster than Ryan Grant. Give him credit.
He's a speedy version of that.
So you do have to respect him when he's on the field as a weapon, but just as a receiver, I'm not tripping. Point is, when it comes to the defensive backs, everybody's going to have their individual matchup that they're going to have to win. You can't really focus on one receiver in this receiving core because, again, you already talked about it. They spread the ball out well. So with that being said, everybody got to be on their P's and Q's when it comes to from Bashaud Breeland to Josh Norman to in the slot with Kendall Fuller and DJ Swearinger or whichever safety is checking the tight end at that point because they also have good tight ends. So this is something that you're going to have to work with, and everybody's going to have to be on their P's and Q's. It's not about what one person is doing. It's more so about the individuals in the secondary actually executing it and being aware in certain situations, down situations.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to those guys on the inside, whoever's in the slot, on each play, and then whoever's playing tight end. You got to really buckle down on those guys because that's been our Achilles heel all season, or not just this year, obviously, but
all
going
decade.
back 3-4 years now.
Well, I think this Rams game is similar to the Eagles game in the sense that success is not really going to be dictated by the Rams so much. In terms of their offense against our defense, it really comes down to our defensive execution. This is not a team that scares me. Yeah, I'm okay. Goff had the game of his life. Great. Todd Gurley was a high draft pick. Tavon Austin's fast. I get it. And Cooper Kupp, is sneaky. But this is not the Randy Moss-led Vikings we're talking about here. No. This is the offense that was horrific last year and has improved. But I think if the defensive line does lock down on the run, they get pressure on the quarterback, and the secondary executes, this ought to be a game that defensively we're okay in. I think, I initially was a little bit down on DJ Swearinger when we did the game wrap-up show. But going back and thinking about it and looking at some of the film again, I think he played better than I gave him credit for. I think I was wrong in that. He had the one bust, I thought, with the touchdown. But he's clearly a leader. He clearly knows what he's doing. He knows his assignment. I would anticipate he should be able to do that again.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, shall we swap on over to the other side of the ball here? I know none of us are really excited to do it, but we've got to do our jobs.
Our own horrific mess.
Yeah, let's talk about how our offense is going to fare against this defense again. They did have a way to come away with some turnovers last week, and we give up turnovers, so that's a bad combination, right?
But you know what, though? We don't really give up a ton of turnover. Kirk Cousins had a bad game turnover-wise. Name another game in his career where he's fumbled the ball twice. Maybe
I
he
can
has,
name
but I don't.
many games where he's thrown multiple interceptions.
Yeah, but fumbled the ball. He doesn't usually have that many fumbles. That was unusual.
Yeah, either way, man, it's the same result. He's a little turnover prone.
Yeah, he was, but I don't think we're going to see that again. I think he will perform better. The trick, I think the $1 million question here is Aaron Donald. Mm-hmm. Aaron Donald, for those of you out there who don't know, he held out the entire preseason for a contractual dispute. He just reported late last week, so he did not play against the Colts. The Rams have not stated whether he's going to play against the Redskins, but you have to think he will play to one extent or another.
At least
of course, prepare for it
at least in some capacity. And Aaron Donald is an all-world, all-everything, elite, one of the very best defensive tackles in the game, their best player, certainly, I think, overall. That does not bode well for an offensive line that was struggling.
Get the ball out quick. Get it out immediate. Get it out before the whistle even gets blown. That's the only way to really avoid this.
Well,
go ahead.
I'd say at the same time, I mean, as bad as the Colts passing game was, they were able to run the ball a little bit. Not a ton, but a little bit against the Rams.
They did moderately well. 70 yards or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think
it is what it is.
The key to, when you got a good defensive front seven, and that's probably their strength is their front seven.
Absolutely.
You gotta use the run to kind of counter that, at least to start, wear them down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say about that is the Colts, they ran 30-something times, I think, even though it wasn't working. And I think we need to do that too. It didn't do much good for the Colts, but we need to do that too. Obviously, we've said this over and over again. If it's not working, you still got to stick with it to a degree.
Right.
We can't have that again last week where the balance is so off.
To be fair, the Colts also have Scott Tolzien or Tolzien.
Yeah, that was what I was about to say. I mean, this is not the Andrew Luck-led Colts. This is the Scott Tolzien-led Colts, which is a
Scott
Tolzien
is barely an Arena Football League caliber quarterback. I mean, he's
who do you want, him or Painter?
I would probably go Painter.
Oh, good God.
I mean,
I'd probably just start.
They've
the
had some
punter
atrocious
and go
quarterbacks.
0-16.
I'd run the veer.
Start the
That's
punter.
what I'd do. Run
Well, I
the
think
veer.
that was the Colts' idea that
Where's
year
Pat
they drafted
McAfee?
Andy Luck.
Yeah, that was what Suck for Luck. Yeah, Suck for Luck came from that.
Yeah.
It did. Jamal, what do you think?
Okay, no,
We're
that's
just
fair. That's
babbling
fair.
here.
I'm just saying we need to keep the balance. We need to not get one-dimensional.
Absolutely.
We need to stick with it. That's all. Kirk cannot be our leading rusher.
Oh yeah, definitely not. I mean, personally, I think that the offensive line, and I had these issues in preseason, man. It was a lot of people wanted to shrug it off, but the issue, and I talked about this on R32 actually last night. The question was raised about Morgan Moses and what's going on with him, and come to find out he may be dealing with an injury, playing with an injury, and when your performance, because that's not the Morgan Moses that we know over the last 2 years.
No.
But when you're dealing with an injury that is severely affecting your play, and this is just not on him. It's not just on him. But when you're dealing with an injury that's severely affecting your play, I think he gave up 3 sacks. That's an issue. You got Ty Secchi, who's one of the best backups in the league. If there's something that needs to be done, you need to make that move and make sure Morgan Moses heals up. However, he's not the only one, again, that's going through it. The interior offensive line is an issue as well. So I think with the problem is not necessarily, for me, they need to run the ball more against the Rams. It's really shoring up the offensive line, focusing on us, or the Redskins offensive line focusing on themselves, because I don't know the ins and outs of being an offensive lineman. However, I do know that these individuals are getting beat. It's not a unit, but individuals are getting beat, and that goes in technique. That goes in how you line up, your pad level, all that type of stuff. So Bill Callahan got to get to work and address these issues ASAP, because you're going to have to pass protect and you're going to have to run the ball against the Rams for a good amount of time. And Aaron Donald's one of the best pass rushers, and he's a very active defensive lineman in the trenches. So you got to get your act together ASAP. And the Rams have a good front seven, period.
They do. And there's film out there last week of Morgan Moses getting driven back 5 yards, pocket collapsing. It
Yeah.
wasn't just him, like you said.
Put him on skates.
But Jamal said it. It's not just Aaron Donald. That Alex Ogletree is a good, is a quality linebacker. Connor Barwin, quality linebacker. It's definitely the Robert Quinn. It's definitely the strength of their team is that front seven. And those 3 guys. Just numbers wise, real fast from 2016 at least. They were 9th in total yards, 10th in passing yards, 16th in rushing yards. And oddly enough, they were only 23rd in points, which means they didn't give up a lot of yards, but they gave up more points than the yardage totals would suggest, which
Short
I find a
fielding it
little.
then.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a little
I'll
bit
blame
odd.
that on Jared Goff.
That may be true, in the quarterbacks. Now the stat that just jumps out of the page at me like a big, giant, flashing red light here is third down conversion rate. This team, the Rams defense, was 4th in the NFL in 2016 at opponents' third down conversions, 36.28%. Now, quick, somebody tell us what our weakness on offense is.
Third down.
Third down conversions and red zone,
Yeah,
and also
both-
winning, and also
both-
scoring points,
well, yeah.
and also running the ball,
See,
and also
And catching.
I was going to say red zone,
yeah, that
so, I don't know how that bodes well. We did do, as it turns out, we were a little better in third down conversions, but red zone wise, terrible.
haha.
But point is, I'm talking about the Redskins. But
Yeah.
the point is, this is a top 10 defense. Generally speaking, top 10 defense.
And they only got better with Wade Phillips now being there.
Yes.
That's right.
ex-
I
that's
thought it was
exactly
still. I
where-
thought it was still Williams, and it's Phillips.
That's exactly where I was
forgot he
going
got
with
fired.
this. Top 10 defense should have a better coaching. So it's going to be more of an offensive challenge than the Eagles game was.
That's not good.
I like to
I
ask
bel-
you guys this though, but I'm sorry,
What's up?
Sean, I cut you off. But
No, it's all right.
part of the story here this week is that Mr. Boy Wonder Sean McVay is now the head coach.
Sure.
Trent
Yeah.
Williams.
He's going to give all our secrets away.
Yeah, well, that's where I'm going with this. Trent Williams put a quote out in the media that came out this week where he was talking about that and said, "Listen, Sean knows every player, and he was sounded legitimately nervous about it." To me, we still have Jay Gruden, who knows Sean pretty well. I mean, I'm not sure it scares me that much that Sean McVay is on the other side because we still have Jay, and it's still Jay's offense.
Sure.
Am I wrong? Am I right? What?
I don't think it's right or wrong, frankly. I mean, I think it becomes a wash. Yes, Sean knows what Jay likes to call. Jay knows what Sean likes to call. Both of them will use that to their advantage.
I
and
think
as smart as Sean McVay is, and I think he will be a very good head coach in over the course of the next 10 to 15 years or whatever it'll be. I'm not worried about him outsmarting guys he worked for right now. Maybe in a year or two, but not right now.
I think that's a great point, Alex. I don't know what's true, but I think that's a great point. I think the Redskins are going to win or lose based off how they execute, and it's not really going to matter Sean McVay being there, though I understand the concern. I think ultimately we'll either beat ourselves or we'll win. The opportunities will be there again like they were last week.
That's right.
Whether or not Sean's been there to give some info away. The opportunities will be there. Take them. If you don't take them, you'll lose. Simple as that.
I agree with Sean. It plays a part, but it also comes down to execution. Because I mean, the game for the Eagles was there to be had. Despite the early turnovers, and I honestly think that the pick in the red zone was a backbreaker. So I can't say despite that one. I mean, we still had a chance to win late on the last drive, but still, that's just something that hurts you. Point is that the opportunity will be there to be had again. You have to capitalize. And when it comes to Sean McVay, I don't think either one has the upper hand. But if I had to choose, I would lean more to Sean because he knows this entire team, like the offense, and he knows the defense because he knows most of the defense that's been here. So, but when you look at Jay Gruden only knows how the head coach operates. He's not really familiar with the players that he has. He hasn't played the players that he has. He doesn't know the players that he has that Sean McVay has on his roster. And you're dealing with you're dealing with the unknown, the strengths and weaknesses of the team. I mean, obviously that's what game plan is for. They'll figure that out and they'll make their best guess, their best assumption on how to attack this team, the Rams team.
Yeah.
But Sean McVay has the upper hand in terms of coaching and stuff like that.
He may, but I'm not that. I don't think it's the end of the world.
Yeah, me
is
neither.
my point. I would like to clarify something because I misspoke here earlier. I was looking at the wrong things. It is a fact that the Rams defense. Let me find it here. Rams defense. Okay. Rams defense, 4th in NFL third down conversion rate, so they're very good at it. They were bad in the red zone, 31st in the red zone. So it actually matches up strength on strength for us, not what I was saying, which is the opposite. Because we had a high third down conversion rate, and we were obviously terrible in the red zone. So that kind of matches, our strength matches up with their strength, and their weakness matches up with our weakness in terms of red zone and third downs. So that was what I was trying to say, and I just said it badly.
You biffed it. You biffed it, Steve. No, fair enough. There goes Steve again, issuing another immediate correction. We love you for it. One other thing that may be worth bringing up about the Rams
I was going
defense.
to get some dummy who was going to tweet us and go out to say we had it totally wrong. So I want to make sure we got it out there.
They'll still do it.
You're probably right. They'll still do it. That's right. One other thing that might be worth bringing up is that this is a blitz-happy team. I don't know if you guys saw this, but the Washington Post put out an article talking about how they were one of the most blitz-happy teams last year. I know it's a new administration, but they do tend to blitz a lot on third down and about 1 in 3 times apparently on first and second down. So just be ready for the pressure. It's a strong front seven, like we said. Sounds like it's a pretty obvious prognosis there. Beware of it.
They blitz a lot, yet they were only 24th in sacks. What does that tell you?
Pressure counts for a lot,
last
Steve.
week, or are you talking about last year?
My stat was last year.
Last year, yeah, is when
Okay.
I think the jury's still out on how much they're going to blitz this year. But
Okay.
but yeah, no, hey, pressure is pressure, Steve, and we know Kirk doesn't do well under it. So,
No.
anyways, any other major headlines about the game you guys want to get out? Anything else we want to chat about before we let people go?
I mean, look, this is about. I said it earlier. This is about execution. It's not so much about the Rams. It's about whether the Redskins players can execute their assignment properly. We saw bust after bust last week against the Eagles. Kirk Cousins, bad throws, the throw at the goal line. And he later, by the way, said that interception at the goal line was supposed to be for Pryor, which was maybe even worse throw if it was really for Pryor. The fumbles, the offensive line problems, the problems with run blocking, Terrell Pryor drop balls. If they execute, the Redskins will be fine. If they don't execute, the Rams are going to win the game. But I think it's more about the Redskins and themselves than it really is about the Rams.
I think there's a lot of stuff we have to get into at some point when it comes to the whole Josh Doxson situation, how he's somehow hurt again. Can we
talk about that?
Hell, we didn't even talk about that.
I'm just pretending he doesn't exist at this point. Until I see him, he doesn't exist.
It's stirred up a massive controversy amongst the fan base.
Yeah.
I'm still of the mind that we don't give up on Josh Doxson. He's a first-round pick. He does have talent. Maybe Cooley's right when he was talking last year about he doesn't love the game. I don't know, but I don't think you give up on a first-round draft pick in week 2 of his second season.
And
if he's hurt, he's hurt.
You can't give up on him, but it's just so goddamn frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
And the other thing that I think needs to really be looked at in this game, I need to see some Samaje. I need to see him get on the field and get 2-3 carries, just see what he can do in a real game.
I'd be down.
I guess.
I wouldn't fight it. Steve doesn't look excited.
I don't. It is. It's funny because people were talking about that today in terms of the running back situation. I don't want to do a disservice to Rob Kelly because I don't think it's necessarily. And I know you're not saying this, Alex. So
I'm not saying
I'm not
as
saying
an anti-Kelly thing. I'm just saying we need to get him some carries just to get. It's better for the rotation in general.
Yeah. So I just think that it's first and foremost to have to run the ball more and establish a presence on the ground game. In order to, because Rob Kelly can run the ball, but they also have to use the backs. And what I mean, they need to use Rob Kelly and Chris Thompson
Sure.
Sprinkle a little Samaje, but you don't have to use him just yet. Because I mean, he didn't really impress in the preseason either. So, um, just like Josh Doxson, I mean, these guys really didn't impress. I mean, Josh Doxson only played a couple games, but Terrell Pryor played as well. Like, it's a lot of people that
Hmm.
just didn't impress. So it's like you want to get on time, but they haven't really done much. You have to play Terrell Pryor because he's your number one receiver at the moment. But it's just things that you just gotta figure it out, man.
I mean, it seems like every week we say the same thing in terms of the run game. Jay Gruden's got to establish a run game, and stick with it. Don't give up instantaneously. If the first few carries only get 2 yards, you got to stick with it and give the offensive line and the running backs a chance to establish their presence, like you said. I personally, I thought last week the problems really stem more from the blocking than it was a Rob Kelly thing, considering the amount of times he was hit in the backfield, the amount of times on the zone plays left and right that the Eagles ends crashed down on the cutback lanes, right at the line of scrimmage. So I personally thought it was more the offensive line than Rob Kelly, but that's just me.
Well, and one thing when it comes to the whole run game, I heard a tidbit. I don't know how much this was true, but apparently there were a number of run plays called that they audibled out of.
Kirk Cousins checked out of. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and I do wonder. Okay, I'm fine if you see, hey, this run play is going to go right into the 8 guys. Let's check out of it. Fine, but are you ever checking into a run play? Maybe like Cousin has that ability too to audible into a run play from time to time, and I wonder if he ever is.
Personally, I'd assume so. This is me assuming that he is, the quarterback that's smart enough to set his offense up in the proper, the proper play. So I would assume so. But then again, like there are quarterbacks who love to pass the ball.
Yeah,
and I don't know
I
Kirk
think that's
Cousins.
most quarterbacks.
Yeah, exactly. But see, some people do know that they need to run the ball to be successful, and they'll listen. But my point is, I don't know Kirk Cousins. Period. I don't know him.
Yeah, of course.
So, like I said, I would assume so. But then again, who knows? He may be one of those quarterbacks who love to pass the ball.
Well, we know we have a coach that loves to pass the ball too.
Sure,
remember.
we do.
I don't know what if Kirk Cousins has carte blanche to authority to check out of anything he sees.
Supposedly he's at that point now where he does.
Yeah, I guess. Whatever the reason, whether Cousins was checking out of it, whether Jay was calling it, there's no doubt that there needs to be a better run-pass balance than 40 passes and 13 runs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's completely unacceptable. I saw that. I wish I could remember the source for this. It might have been Steinberg. It wasn't. I can't remember. But, the Redskins ran the ball fewer times than any other team last week when the score deficit was within 7 points.
Right.
Which is just crazy, and it's not the way to win football games. And
right.
Jay just, we say it every week, but Jay just doesn't seem to ever get it.
Well, personally, I'm not trying to be a contrarian, but personally, I look at, instead of those numbers, I would look at what they were doing when you said within 7 points, right?
That was the stat I saw, yeah.
Yeah, so I would look at what they were doing when the game was in 7 points, like meaning were they moving the ball when the game was within 7 points, even though they ran the fewest. So my point in saying that is there is benefits to running the ball, especially if you can run the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't necessarily have to run the ball, is what I'm saying as well. So for us to succeed, and this is what I've been saying, and I'm pretty sure you guys agree with this as well. We need a running game because Kirk Cousins cannot win games off his shoulder alone consistently. So
right. He's not a vertical downfield heavy passer who can just throw for 400 yards.
Yeah, he can't win his games consistently on his arm. He's done it on occasions, but it's not consistent. So
right.
that's what I'm saying. Like you don't have to run the ball, but for us, you have to have a run game. Like that's
I agree with you. I mean, we don't need to be the '82 Redskins, with John Riggins, running up the gut every other play. But unless your name is Tom Brady, there's very few teams, if any, beyond the Patriots that can win regularly with almost going exclusively passing. And even Bill Belichick has his moments where he goes run heavy in certain games.
Oh, yeah. The Patriots have the whole philosophy that you need to run 20 times a game to win. So,
well, I mean, they sort of pick at your weakness. That's their thing. Yeah, if you're not a good run defense, they're going to run up down your throat. But let's not turn to the Patriots side. The point is, we need to have enough of a run game to establish a run and take some of the pressure off Kirk Cousins, because as Jamal said, I mean, he's not good enough to win a game on his arm alone on a consistent basis.
Agreed. So do we want to, knowing all of that, do we want to go around and give our real quick predictions for a score this week?
Sure.
All right. I'll lead us off. I'll jump off this bridge first. I'm going to say the Rams take this one 24-14.
Ooh.
Oh,
Yuck, man.
Ouch.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
don't apologize.
Gotta do it. Hey,
I'm in pain because it's actually the score I initially had in my head.
You
So
can pick the same score. It's okay.
I can't do the same score. No. We have a rule about that. So I'm going to say Rams 21-17 then, just to be slightly different.
All right.
Fair
Now,
enough.
I
Fair
picked in our original, season prediction thing we did a few weeks ago. I picked the Redskins to win this game.
Sure.
That was before I saw them play against the Eagles, and before I saw,
you called a win against the Eagles, too.
before I saw the Rams put all the points. So I unfortunately am going to say the Rams take this game. I think it's going to be sort of the same as we saw last week. So I think it's going to be something like, I'm going to say 23-10.
Okay.
Ooh.
Well, for me, the Redskins win. This is
Let's hope you're right.
This is a must-win, and I'm praying, although I doubt because of how they start early in the seasons, but I'm praying they recognize the sense of urgency with this early season and the first month of the season. So I'm going with the Redskins. I would say maybe 17-10 or 17-14, something like
Low
that.
scoring.
Maybe 20-14, like I had with the Eagles last week. So something in that range where it's a close game, but the Redskins pull it out.
Is it possible that the Week 2 game is a must-win game?
Every
so
game's
sad.
a must-win game. You got 16.
Yeah, and the thing is, with the Redskins, and some teams are allowed to start off slow, and they can catch up, mid-season, on hot streaks and things like that. But the Redskins can't afford that.
Nope.
In a sense, it is not a must-win game for the team. But in reality, you go down to an 0-2 hole, then you got to play the Raiders and the Chiefs following. More than likely, you're losing one of the two, because you can't just bounce. You're not going to bounce back against two established teams. The Raiders won 11 games quicker than you did, quicker than the Redskins did, and they were in they were a terrible franchise for over a decade. So they won 11 games before you did. So my point is,
the Chiefs just beat the Patriots with a rookie phenom.
Exactly. And that's my point. Like, there are two established teams. They know how they have a winning culture already, and it's crazy to say that for the Raiders, but like, it's been proven already. So that's my point. You're going against, if you're going down 0-2, you're going against two teams that's established winners, and it's going to be hard to win because you got to play one of them on the road as well. So it's a must win, and I hope they recognize the sense of urgency and come out and show that.
I hope you're right and I'm wrong, but my positivity got drained.
Oh man.
Well, you know what? We'll find out this weekend. We'll certainly be back with everybody at home to tell you how it went. Break it down. Hopefully we have some positive news for you. Anything else, guys?
If it's not Alex, we think it's not a positive.
Ooh, yeah, even more fun. All right. Well, good luck with that, Alex. Good luck, Redskins, in this matchup. We'll see you guys next episode. Take care.
Later.
Sayonara.